welcome to the Tree Planners podcast for June 19th. My fifth grader son told me that it was the last day of school today. Do you guys know if that's true?
Is it the last day of that the students are finishing up their online courses.
Okay.
Slowly but surely finishing up. I'm not too sure about it being the very last day of school yet, though.
Okay.
Well, for the elementary panel in Simcoe, at least the 26th is supposed to be the last day. My 11-year-old also told me today was his last day of school because next week is supposed to be all fun activities. So technically, no, it's not the last week, but they're not going to be really asking him to do anything next week. So he's like, hey, just so you know, I'm done for the whole summer. I'm like, yeah, no, you're not.
Well, I feel like I would have tried pulling the same stunt when I was 11 years old, too. No, seriously, school's done. Come on, the summer started a week early.
You don't want to do it any more than I want to do it.
So you've, for those listening, heard a couple of voices there. Margaret, as usual, is joining us. And this week we have Shak Edwards joining us as well from Shak's World, in Barrie. How are you doing, Shak?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. And how are you doing, Margaret?
Doing pretty good. I mean, I went for a big walk today and feeling like I started off my day proper. So
nice.
That's good.
Morning walks are the best. That's why I have a dog. He makes sure I get out every morning.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And before it gets too hot.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually the perfect time.
Yeah.
Just before the sun gets to that boiling hot we've had for the past few days.
Yeah. My wife had to leave early today, so I wasn't able to do that with the kids. Well, I guess I could have taken the kids out for a walk too. But I've taken a big bottle of water in one of those collapsible bowls now for the midday walks with the dog. Otherwise he doesn't make it through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of dog do you have, Shak?
I have a Maltese Shih Tzu. So he's just a little guy. Actually, Cash is Shaq spelled backwards, but Cash is my emotional support dog. He usually comes with me to different basketball events. So if I'm doing training with certain types of kids, not all kids, but certain training camps get Cash as well. So he's a little guy. He helps the kid with engagement and with processing. So I'm really excited.
It's amazing what animals can do, eh?
Yeah.
Sorry. My internet.
That's
sorry, Adam.
Yeah, no. That's the online lag, and that's just what we work with nowadays. I'm really excited to learn more about this, about what you're doing with Shak's World.
Excited to share.
So, yeah. Well, we usually do a couple of quick links, things that we're following and keeping an eye on. So let's do that. We'll roll through those real quick, and then we'll get to Shak's World. What do you got top of mind this week, Margaret?
I knew you were going to ask me. And we were just talking to Shak before we started recording about the Just Recovery Simcoe.
No, that was mine.
We launched yesterday. Well, I'm sorry, but man, I was like, it has taken up a lot of airspace. And in fact, my husband was like, you need to learn how to celebrate, even if it doesn't feel like you need to celebrate. So we're going to go out and we're going to buy Thai food tonight. And I was like, yes, thank you. So I did a little bit of celebration. But anyways, the Just Recovery Simcoe has put me into conversations and resources that just never kind of made it in, because I'm kind of like land use planning and how policies at the municipal level and provincial level, that's kind of the world that I didn't intend to live in, but I live in. And it was really interesting to kind of go through the Just Recovery stuff and look at it from different community perspectives, look at it from, racialized or marginalized perspectives. And so that was a part of the fun of it all. And I know that sounds weird, but like of putting down policies, like I talked to Shak before we started recording, that would probably make most political leaders go, ooh, that doesn't really make me feel comfortable because that's not something we do. We tend to go with this. And that status quo has kind of been the problem, right? So, that's the main thing that I've been working on lately, but also getting into some books that some classic books I've always been meaning to read that I've never never had a chance to, and those have been challenging for me. So reading Maya Angelou's I Know Where the Caged Bird Sings, one of my favorite poets, and I've always been meaning to read her book, and I'm finally through it now. So just, taking moments to pause and think and just appreciate a different perspective that's kind of what I've been focusing on this last week. So sorry to steal your thunder, Adam.
I'm more than happy for you stealing that. It's so the Just Recovery's got a website. It's Just Recovery Simcoe. There's a number of Just Recovery initiatives out there, some national, some global. We are focusing ours locally because that's just kind of the scope of our activity. So more information on that can be found at justrecoverysimcoe.ca. And there's 3 planks: invest in people, invest in nature, and invest in community. And then underneath those, we break out a number of recommendations. And it's not just Margaret and I doing this. It's a pretty great alliance, coalition of broad diversity of issue areas. I'm totally bungling what I'm trying to say, but there's faith-based groups, there's groups that focus on food security, environment, housing, affordability, poverty. Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And one of the things I'm excited about it is that it affords the opportunity to offer some practical solutions, which you don't necessarily always have as activists. You're always sort of trying to push for change, but sometimes you kind of leave the actual groundwork for implementing that change up to staff, if you will. So it's nice as activists to be able to include some of that stuff in our work. And Shak, how about you? I know it's kind of putting you on the spot. We didn't really talk about this element of the podcast before, but is there something top of mind for you?
Top of the mind for me is just staying up to date and educating myself with all the different ways that I can be the change, kind of like we're talking about right now. Right now, I'm following Shak's World and Uplifting Black Youth. But for personal growth, I'm just following along a lot of different people just to make sure I'm staying up to date on what's going on today and how I can be more helpful with everything going on. So, I mean, right now, it's kind of a weird time to ask what I'm following because I'm following a lot of what everyone else is following, I think.
I know this is a loaded, a bit of a probably difficult question, but how do you keep from being overwhelmed with everything? There's so much out there.
Well, I am a feely type of person, so I very much believe in making sure that you're grounded and then kind of gravitating towards things that speak to you. So a lot of what I read comes from people with PhDs, and B, I feel like it resonates with me. Does that make sense? I don't watch any news or social media platforms mainstream social media or news to keep myself focused on what my goal is and not get kind of swayed in either direction by what's going on globally. So, if that answers your question.
It does. Yeah. I have that tension often where I sort of feel myself kind of spinning out of my world, if you will. I don't know, like my focus kind of getting distracted over there or like, and recently I've had this with some interactions on social media where I will sort of respond almost impulsively, kind of wish I hadn't.
It's seeing the stuff and not engaging in it because we want to be changing it, right? So staying away from online in the news, it helps you not become biased or not become one-sided towards anything, because everything I do out of love and out of seeing a better future. So if I find that when I do watch the news or I do get too wrapped up in social media, I start to become upset. And I don't want to be upset by what's going on. I just want to change what's going on. You know what I mean?
You know, is, I mean, now that you mention it, it comes across very clearly in your presence. Certainly, there's been 3 that I've attended anyways. There have been 3 Black Lives Matter rallies recently that you've emceed, and that positivity comes across loud and clear. It's pretty cool.
Well, I just feel like if we are going to make a change, it isn't going to be through kicking and screaming. It's going to be through, like you said, getting on the ground and making the change and being that activist that is going to go into City Hall, that is going to go sit down at a council meeting and say, hey, yeah, the hashtag's gone, but we still have a lot of work to do here. We still have the hashtag is gone. The feelings are still here. You heard youth, you heard seniors, you heard middle-aged people speaking about how they feel in your city. So it's not like all that goes away. Now we need to make sure that those people feel comfortable, because one of the biggest things that I find in Barrie is people are comfortable because it's been the same for so long, and the diversity is starting to shake people a little bit. But what they need to know is that within 5 to 10 years, this place is going to be one of the most diverse cities in the country, because with all the people moving south, it's just going to become all the people coming from south to north, it's going to become more diverse. So we might as well nip it in the butt now and get things under control so that we can have the city that we all really deserve, because I love Barrie and I'm not going anywhere. So, I mean, we're either going to fix it or some people are going to stay uncomfortable. You know, it's just, and why? We just all coexist and be happy, because no one's trying to force a separation. We're trying to force equality, unity. So it's unfortunate, but
yeah.
And you can see a lot of the political leaders around the county, because we know we focus on Barrie, but also other municipalities have been dominated by certain voices, and not particular people, but certain voices that represent a certain segment of the population, older, male, white, generally. And it's really interesting to me to see the shock that, like, whoa, this is what people want. This is crazy. And we're like, have you not been listening for really long? Like, this isn't new, right? And so you can see how they've set up their comfort, right? And they don't feel that they need to change. And so that's kind of a little bit, I mean, why you do what you do, why we do it. We each address it from our own perspective, but that is kind of why we need to be there, is to kind of shift from, hey, you guys are comfortable in this bubble, but this isn't where people actually want you to be. And we have to demonstrate that this is kind of where we would like you to be, and make those changes and get the right leaders into the councils, get, the right groups and citizens talking to each other and getting to know one another, and build that community. I mean, I think it's the long-term change, like you were talking about, that is really important, in that positivity and the connection and showing people. So I really appreciate that, what you're all saying there, because it resonates a lot with me.
Do you want to give us a Cole's note on Shak's World, and then maybe we can talk about that a little bit more? Sure.
So Shak's World was created in hopes of creating respectful, successful community members and athletes. So what we started off as was a basketball program that really just tried to teach what integrity, respect, determination, hard work, the basics in sports. We tried to teach how to translate that into your everyday life. Through that, we turned into a mentorship program. So I was able to start mentoring the athletes that I was working with, so that they could learn where sport actually translates in life, because sports and life go hand in hand as long as you know how to use them correctly. So basketball is my catalyst. Basketball is my sport of choice, and it's what I choose to educate people on the stay humble and kind philosophy with. When our mentorship started, I got a lot of, I want to say, attraction. So I started a community event, which is called Cure Courts, and it's a youth mental health awareness tournament, because I found that one of the biggest things that these kids were struggling with was not understanding themselves. It wasn't it wasn't much of what was going on around them as much as what was going on inside of them. And once I figured that out, I was able to help families better communicate. So through Cure Courts, I'm able to bring the community together, the kids together, the liaisons together, and our police officers, which is funny, together, to raise money and awareness for youth mental health, as well as give them different tools. We give out little stress balls. We give out fidget spinners and stuff like that, so that they've got tools to help them with their mental advancement as well as their physical advancement. So that's where Cure Courts came from, but that's kind of been the evolution of Shak's World. And now I still coach, I still do my mentorship, but I also offer workshops and clinics within the school board. I also go and do different presentations for associations that are interested in learning about the Shak's World philosophy. And I travel and I coach, and that's what I do. A lot of people are always ask how or what or get me to explain it, but really it's an experience that I bring to kids, which is why I think that, well, I mean, I know that in the near future, we're working on creating a space so that those kids can always feel the energy of Shak's World, the stay humble and kind, and what that feels like, and what it feels like to be in a unified area or atmosphere, a unified atmosphere, because it's different. And they've expressed that it feels different, and parents express that it feels different when they go in and they know that it's a judgment-free love is love zone. Kids will respond to it, and it's just giving them the opportunity to be that and let them take that into the community that makes them those respectful, successful community members.
Very cool. You're focused on youth, clearly, and athletes and sport.
Yeah.
And I think you sort of outlined why you think athletics and sport is important. But now basketball specifically, could you speak to, I mean, in your own history, I'm assuming there's a connection to basketball, but also the value of that as a team sport and how that contributes to,
myself, I played basketball for 15 years before my career was shut down by a knee injury, and that's where Shak's World came from, because it was either be better or be bitter at that point. And so with that, working with my teammates, I was with the same team for 11 years of my 15-year career. And you become a family, and that's not just in basketball. That's in any sport. When you play a team sport, you get to know people on a level that is much deeper than just the physical. You learn to trust them, you learn to communicate with them, and you learn to understand them. One of my favorite things that Kobe Bryant says is that if sports taught him nothing else, it taught him humility, camaraderie, and understanding of others. And I think that is 100% accurate, because when you do play a sport, it's very much about, this is what we're doing right now, but this is about the game. It's not about the person, right? So I take that into my everyday life and say, this person is not my enemy. This is not my enemy. This is just someone that is on the opposite side right now. At the end of the game, it's over. There's nothing to fight about. So that's how I live my life. I don't get angry with people, because I know that one day they'll eventually understand what I was trying to say. So I don't want to look like the bad guy at the end of the day. Everyone hears from their own level of perception. So that's up to them. And you learn that in sport, because you realize at the end of the game, people take the jerseys off and you're all friends. You're just people at the end of the day. Yes, we're on different teams, but we're just people. So that's something that I keep in mind, just as an everyday tip when people start going off. It's not me.
I have a question for you about it, because imagining, like, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes where your basketball career has ended, and I don't know what visions you had for that or aspirations, but then transitioning to something that you had to start from nothing, right? Like, it just was an idea you had. How did you, like, I find that those transitions are really interesting because someone has to go from what they thought they knew to something brand new that hasn't been realized. It's not like someone said to you, here, Shaq, here's an idea, here's a logo, here's this, you were going to do it, and you just go for it. You now have to bring that into fruition on your own. And there's a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. So I'm just wondering, that transition, how did you stay inspired to keep that going? Or maybe you didn't have moments where you were like, oh, I don't know if this is the right thing. Maybe you just always felt in your gut, like you're saying, you're a Philly person, I'm just going to go through with it. But I'm just wondering about that moment where you transitioned from what you knew to something completely unknown.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I struggled with my mental health for a long time after, because as any athlete knows, if you are immobilized as someone who is athletic, it's a mental game. It's no longer a physical game. It's now a mental game. So I went through a long time of just trying to figure myself out. And one thing that always stuck with me was one of my roommates in college was the captain of the men's basketball team for 5 years. And he graduated. He was not injured. He graduated. And when he graduated, he just stopped. That was it. His life ended. It was like when basketball ended, he didn't know where else to go or what else to do. And he just stayed at home all day. So when I would reflect on that during that time when I was sitting at home all day, I said that I love basketball. And I know that I can teach mental toughness through this if I can get through this. So from then on, my first contract was with the town of Innisfil. I ran a Shaq's World basketball program through the recreation booklet. And I pushed through it. I really thought to myself that basketball, I know that it's going to take me somewhere. I don't know where, and I'm not willing to give it up. And if I can help someone get somewhere in basketball, even if it isn't me, I'll still be in basketball. So that is how it all started. And it kind of has just snowballed since then because people are inspired by my mindset. And that's what I want to teach is the mindset and give people the experience because like you said, it doesn't come easy. It's not something that you wake up one day with. It's a lot. And it's a lot of reminding yourself that for me, it was reminding myself that it's bigger than I am. And if I do want to give up, there are kids there that are like waiting for Shaq. Okay. There are kids out there that text me and call me. And if I don't respond, then am I a role model or am I just like everyone else? Like, did I just come in just to be here for now or am I in it for the long run? So a lot of the kids that I coach, I have coached for 8 years, like a very, very long time. And we've built a bond. So it's knowing that it's bigger than myself, I guess. Every time I wanted to give up, I knew it was bigger than me. So I just kept going. And I love basketball, so it's not like it was a job.
That's always nice.
Yeah.
How does you touched on this a little bit. How does humility contribute to the success of a team?
Being able to see someone as a person is extremely important in sports because as a team, you don't want to, how do I put this? You're only as strong as your weakest link. So as a team, if you are treating someone as if they are not as good as you, as if they don't belong to be there, then you're doing the entire team a disservice. You're not helping, you're making the team worse. So when I try to, let me get the right words here. Can you ask the question again?
How does humility contribute to the success of a team?
Okay. So yeah, it's understanding that everyone's a person. It's understanding that, like I said before, we are all people, whether I'm wearing a blue uniform and you're wearing a red one. Teaching that, when we're playing, there are a lot of, I don't want to put anyone down, but there are a lot of coaches that teach their players to attack someone when it's 3 seconds. There's a lot of different moments in basketball in particular that can show whether you are humane or not. And most of it starts with coaching. And when I coach, most people say it's weird that I sit on the bench and I don't scream at my players and I don't tell them they messed up and I don't sub them off and I don't do those things because they're humans, right? So that helps with our communication, our trust level, and our team bond as a whole. And not going to toot my own horn, but people look at me as a coach and I walk in and sit on the bench and don't say anything. And they're like, oh, Marie, we got a girl. She's not even saying anything. She's probably the assistant, the coach probably isn't here. But then my boys go out there and they kick butt. And they come to the bench and we hang out during halftime while the other coach is yelling at their players, telling them that they need to watch this player and this player and this player. But my team is talking about who they're going to pass the ball to and what they're going to do the next, because we're having fun. Because we're just playing a game. It's not us against them in a literal sense. It's just a game, right? And the more fun you have doing something, the better you will be at it. So I guess that's my answer. Humility helps with that communication and that trust building, because without it, nobody's going to want to play for you or with you. And you have to take that into life.
Yeah, so that was going to be my next question, is then how does that translate from the basketball court to everyday life?
Yeah, it's making sure, kind of like I said in one of my speeches, that you're going out and being your best self every single day. Your best self means that you are, again, treating people the way you want to be treated, understanding that someone else is human, and understanding that they've got their own stuff going on. And so at the end of the day, no matter what, if you're a doctor, if you're a police officer, if you're a lawyer, if you're a cafeteria lady, if you're a janitor, once you take the uniform off, you're just a person. You're just a person. And it's just like when people get starstruck with celebrities, these are just people. They're just people. And when you talk to one of them, you usually realize that they're very, very humble and very, very quiet people. And it's because they are just human and they treat people with humility. And I mentioned that I live off of love. I do everything that I can out of love. And living off value and energy is very, very underappreciated. If you can just, and this is just how I feel, if you can spread that love and that kindness and that humility to as many people as possible, you will be ultimately blessed in this lifetime. And so it's that message that I send to my kids. You have to be humble and you have to be kind, because if you're not humble, it will come back and get you. And there's a saying that I always say, ego trips, but humble never stumbles. So don't get caught with the ego. Don't get caught with your ego, because your ego will have you speaking on things that you should not be speaking on. But when you're humble, you take your anger and you keep it and you just deal with it on your own. And then once the time is right, people usually come back together. The only time they do not is when your ego gets in the way and starts saying things out of line. And that's from personal experience and from watching it happen.
No, go ahead, Mark. I was just going to say we're
going to fight here because we've got the leg.
Well, I was just going to say that I'm mindful of the time, and we're at half an hour now. And I would still really like to ask about uplifting Black youth. But Margaret, what were you?
Well, I was on the same frame of mind. I was going to actually ask Shak if people wanted to learn more about how to enroll or the programs that you have going, if you could just do a plug for that and then transition into, you're dealing with a lot of kids and issues, and you see how they're coming to you and coming to your program and what their experiences are. And of course, you can't generalize for every kid in Barrie or Simcoe County. But I was curious because it kind of leads into what Adam was going through. Now you're doing this uplifting Black youth. And I was just wondering if you could explain how the experience that you're feeling that kids are coming to you with. What is their experience in this area? And because that's something that Adam and I are interested in, about how different people experience our communities versus like, oh, I experience like this, therefore everybody must experience it like that, whether it be age or ability or race or religion. So youth is another thing. Like so plug for Shak's World, and then how do you see the kids coming to you? What are they experiencing? And then we can go into the uplift Black youth. Sorry, that was a really convoluted, long question.
No,
I apologize.
Okay. I think I got everything. So to start, you can go to www.shaksworld.com, and I do usually a 45-minute consultation with families before I start mentoring, because I want to make sure that I'm the right person. And if I'm not, I do have a team of mentors that I can assign you with based on common interests. So that is how we do our mentorship program. All of my mentors that are considered Shak leads are the guys that have been coached by me for 5 years plus and have demonstrated that they understand what stay humble and kind means. I actually put a picture up on Shak's World the other day of a young athlete who went, long story short, they had a game. It was a qualifier for OFSA and they lost. And 45 minutes after the game, this athlete walked back into the gym, shook the coach's hand, helped him clean up, and just said, "Good game, coach. It was really emotional, and you guys played really well. Thank you for having us in your gym." And the coach sent an email over to the principal to say what character this athlete had, and that this was a champion regardless of who the real champions were that day. This was a champion. And those are the kind of athletes I try to push into the community, because as great as I am, I can only talk about what I do. They are showing you what I do. So that is, those guys I trust. They mentor youth, and youth trust them, families trust them, and we are a huge family. We're a team. So that's how our mentorship program works. And again, you can find all that information on www.shaksworld.com. If you want to send an email, info@shaksworld.com for all mentorship or volunteer opportunities. And as far as uplifting Black youth goes, I find it extremely interesting that a lot of youth are feeling confused on whether they should speak out about the injustice that they've faced within their own lives. And a lot are reaching out to tell me what I should be telling the politicians and what I should. So actually the other night we had a call with Ken Witherell of the Barrie Police with a bunch of youth. I'm like, you guys want to tell them yourself. Tell them yourself, because there are Black kids that feel a certain way, feel left out, feel unheard. But right now they don't know how to speak without their counterparts unjustifying their experiences. So one thing that I'm finding right now is, there are a lot of Black youth reaching out to say, this is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. This is what I want to see. Thanks so much for speaking for us. And as I say, I have no problem speaking for the youth, because they essentially are the ones that are going to run this city. They are the ones that are going to be in charge in the next 10 to 15 years. So let's make them comfortable. So with uplifting Black youth, with that being said, we have been giving those youth a voice. We have been giving them the opportunity to have a say in what goes on in the city moving forward, because a lot of them, their biggest complaint to the chief was, if I leave basketball practice too late, I get pulled over by police, and I'm 14, so I don't want to talk to police. So these are all things that we're working on, but these are all concerns that kids have starting at age 11, 12. So with that being said, to get all of those youth feeling a little more comfortable, a little more heard, we've got our Uplifting Black Youth care packages going out, and any and all donations are accepted. We've got I think we're up to 10 locations. So there are 10 locations within Simcoe County. You can drop off toys to, you can drop off art supplies, electronics. And then we're going to, at the end of the month, create care packages based on the interests of each individual child. So they are going to feel heard. And that is what we're trying to accomplish right now with Uplifting Black Youth in Shak's World.
And people can find, is there a website or is it a Facebook page right now? Or
yeah, so the Uplifting Black Youth packages is actually just at Uplifting Black Youth on Facebook. I believe the full name is Uplifting Black Youth Making Change in Simcoe County. And all the information's on there, including all the drop-off locations. Or you can check out Shak's World _ on Instagram. And all the drop-off locations are there as well as Shak's World Facebook page. So there are a lot of places to find the information. And if you go to any one of our websites, we are more than happy to respond to anyone that's contacting us with questions or looking for more information.
And Shak, you do a weekly session on how to be a better ally.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So recently, since the protests, a lot of allies have been reaching out, trying to find out how they can be an ally, period. So I started a series called Becoming a Great Ally to just create a safe space for our allies to ask any questions. They don't have to, I don't want anyone to feel that they can't grow, because this is a place for growth. It's a place where if you have questions or if you're confused as to what's going on, you can join us in our open discussions. I also offer at the beginning a little history lesson on the beginning of systematic oppression so that people understand. Then we get into our open discussion, and then we'll close off with some more questions on what you want to know. Last week, we had some great questions on how do we have meaningful and information-filled conversation with friends and family who don't find the importance in the BLM movement. And that's a great question, because how do you have those conversations? How do they not turn into screaming matches, right? So those are all things that we discuss, and it's a safe space for allies, because I know that right now everyone is very, very on edge online. So posting a question could get you in trouble. So Becoming a Great Ally is a great place to come to feel safe, to get any questions that you may have out, as well as learn how to be an ally moving forward for the long term, not just right now, not just posting hashtags and reposting the stuff. It's really going out there and stopping the people that are making other people uncomfortable.
Which is the long term is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, it's accountability. Yeah. It's accountability. And then we also have Growing Up Melanin, which is a series for Black youth, ages 7 to 17. And again, another open forum, and I do a history lesson for them on the history of Black people before slavery, because before slavery, we were royals. We were royalty. So there's a reason that these kids should love their melanin. So Growing Up Melanin is a series to teach them to love the skin that they're in. And that's on Thursday night. So that has been, again, another very information-packed group. Last night was my first one. And it was really interesting to see what the kids had to say. Really interesting, because a lot of them are only aware of slavery. They aren't aware of before slavery, which is interesting that it's not taught, but that's another conversation.
It's a big the weakness of history, right? It's very, very Western, very white, in terms of
written by the winner, right?
Exactly. And once it's and written, right, and also with Indigenous peoples and the verbal tradition, and yeah.
And that's to touch on Indigenous, actually, the Becoming a Great Ally series is a BIPOC series. So it's Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Whereas the Growing Up Melanin is just for Black kids. The other is for allies to understand all ethnicities and cultures. And we do talk about the what to do in the workplace and stuff like that. So it's very information filled for the allies. just because, again, we want to see this change through, you know, and if there are people that are willing to listen, then I'm willing to help. And it's that simple.
And you said something earlier about being comfortable with discomfort. And I think that's such an important part for people growing in all facets of their life. You know, you try something new and it's uncomfortable because you're unsure. And am I doing the right thing? And just like as I was asking about how you transition from sports to Shaq's world, there's a discomfort that comes from going outside of your zone and what you're used to, right? And so figuring out how to recognize discomfort as a stage and not a final resting place, that you can actually move through discomfort and you can learn and grow and see positivity on the other side of discomfort, not just to be stagnant there, because that's where people then retreat back to where they were before, because they're like, this is too uncomfortable, I need to go back to where I was. But we need people to progress through their discomfort and come to the other side, right?
Yeah. And the way I like to look at it is when you become uncomfortable, that is your chance to I usually say create. That's your chance to create, because in that uncomfort, in that unknown, you can just put whatever you want there, you know, fill it with something beautiful. That's what I always say, because if you're uncomfortable, there's a way to become comfortable in that discomfort. Just make it beautiful, because it's up to you. When you're uncomfortable, it's because you don't know. And if you don't know, you create.
I think that's what's so fantastic about the approach that you employ also with your activism, though, which is very positive, and that it offers, because not everybody, you know, whether because of trauma or what have you, is able to get easily able to get into those spaces of discomfort. But by focusing on that positive message and building that positive environment, then people are supported in coming into those places that are important for change.
Yeah, it creates that unity that we're looking for.
Margaret, do you want to
5 questions?
Do you want to throw the 5 questions at Shaq? Yeah.
Okay, these are super easy. And we started a few podcasts ago where I was like, we should totally have like a buzzer beater round at the end where we just ask random kind of fun questions. And so then Adam was like, well, if it's your big idea, you come up with the questions. So here they are. No time limit. I'm going to add a 6th one because you're a basketball fan and I'm a bit of a basketball fan. So I have a 6th one at the end here. So number 1, what is your go-to order at your favorite restaurant?
Beyond Meat Burger, A&W.
Okay, nice. Number 2, and there's no specificity here. So what do you wish you had known when you started out?
That not everyone was going to agree with me. That being nice is a choice. I didn't realize that. I thought everyone was nice, but no, that is not the case.
Number 3, what are you curious about right now?
The outcome of everything going on. And I could give you detail on that if you would like. But yes, the outcome of everything that we're working on right now has me very curious. It's like I said, this is the creation stage. This is the uncomfortable creation stage. When we're out of this, it's like, let's see what we did here. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Perfect. Do you have a go-to podcast or resource right now?
My favorite podcast, and this is completely left field probably for you guys, but they're called Rev Ramblings. And it's an energy check, the energy check in the world. Those are my favorite kind of podcasts. Again, I am a very feely person, so I like to know where the energies are, because if I go outside and someone's angry, I like to know why, because then I know it's not my fault.
Rev, R-E-V, okay. Ramblings.
Yeah, she's great. Okay. She's very, very non-professional in her podcast, but very informational. We
have some similarities then, at least with the non-professional part. Number 5, a piece of advice for when people are feeling discouraged. And I think you've touched on it a lot, but why not hash it out one more time?
Always remember your why. When you get discouraged, remember why you started. Bring yourself right back. Bring yourself right back to that why.
That's really good.
Yeah, because for me personally, without my why, I don't know if I would have gone this far, right? I mean, all of the no's, you can imagine I started Shaq's World in Barrie when I was 18 or 19. You can imagine as a young Black girl, how much BS I got for trying to start a basketball program and how much BS I still get for a basketball program. And all I have to say is my why is bigger than anyone. And now you will see why I started a basketball program, right? So that's all I have to say on.
Well, good for you with that piece of advice, because it reminds me of how I have abandoned the New Year's resolutions, where you're like, what are the things you're going to accomplish this year? And I've actually turned it into the what isn't as important; it's the how. So how I make decisions, how I move through life, is way more important and controllable than the what. The what, I mean, so many things have happened in your life, my life, right? That you can't control. And so there's no point focusing on the what too much, because the how and the why, like as you point out, is really what you can control. So that's great. So this is my sixth one. This is kind of like a throw in there. I see you've got, the Lakers, Kobe Bryant all behind you. I don't know how loyal you are to the Lakers. I'm a bit of a Raptors fan myself. And my question is, do you think the Mamba mentality? Okay, so I might be asking you that. I'm a bit of a Raptors fan, so I'm kind of curious whether you think they can repeat or not, or whether you think, LeBron's going to take them down.
I have full faith in my Raps. Yeah, I love Kobe, and I will always love Kobe. But the Raptors, those guys have heart like I've never seen. So if they come back with that same heart, I have no doubt in my mind they could repeat. Not a doubt. Especially with a nation behind them, not a doubt.
All right.
Fantastic.
Go Raptors.
Well, thank you again. Yeah, go Raptors. Thank you again for joining us.
Starting again soon, by the way, if you guys didn't hear.
Yeah. It's a shortened season, right? And okay. Well, that's going to be exciting. We're more of a baseball household, and the MLB is a bit of a clusterfuck right now.
So game last year, very first one ever. It was great. Blue Jays.
At the Sky Dome. The only thing I could dump on the Sky Dome until the end of time. It's just as far as a sporting venue for getting into the feel of the game, it's horrible. I agree. It is
For my
what
first
it is.
one, I was like, basketball is so much better. You go to a basketball game, the entire gym is woo.
Yeah. Well, but very, I mean, this is one of the, this is me going off on a total tangent here. Yeah. Well, I mean, baseball is called pastime for a reason, right? And it's not. It's a very different dynamic from basketball. Totally different. And but they try and make it this. They're trying to make it more like basketball. So like shorten any space in between action and pumping the stadiums full of fake artificial sound and all these sorts of things. And it's not what it's meant to be. It's a different thing.
Right.
Anyways, there's my baseball rant for the day. We'll be watching basketball though, because MLB's not got their shit together. So
go to the NBA.
And basketball is the best sport.
It is super exciting, and the Raptors are a very, very fun team to watch.
They're awesome, and Raptors has helped Shaq's World a lot on our journey, and I'm excited to have them more here in town.
Right on.
What we're working on, so.
And what a perfect team to demonstrate the value of humility too, right? Like it's such
and that's it. Right? A team like the Raptors, you look at them and they're a bunch of superstars that are not superstars. They're they're very much, we're here together in this game. And that's it.
Yeah. They lift each other up.
That's it. And
that's cool.
And when you were talking earlier, when you were talking earlier, Shaq, about your coaching style, I immediately was thinking about Nick Nurse, right? Where I'm not saying that he never gets heated. I mean, he gets the personal fouls every now and again, but like when he talks about his players, it's always positive. Like so I was like, oh, she's just like Nick Nurse, like in your own way, but like doesn't have that kind of like, I'm going to yell at all you guys and I'm going to tell you what's what all the time.
Yeah. And I just think that it takes a good coach to understand that. That's all it is. If you can't communicate with your players, it will show in your coaching. If you have a good relationship with your players, it will show in your coaching. And the way, I mean, I obviously have been inspired by the incredible coaches that I've gotten to work with along the way. But my coach that coached for 11 years, our team was number one in the province every time. Kia Nurse actually played on my team for 2 years before she went away to Transway. So we had the top team in Ontario for a long time. And this man sat on the bench with his BlackBerry the whole time. He did not say anything the whole time. He would look up and say, do you guys need a timeout? No? Okay. It was in practice. He made sure he spoke to us in practice, and he spoke to us as human beings. So when we went to play, it translated, you know? So all of the amazing things that I've experienced, I've gotten to make it my own and teach it through Shak's World, which is great. Anyway, I could ramble all day, I feel. So
I think we could go on forever, to be honest. We could do like, just make you a regular part of this Tree Planters podcast.
Hey, by the way, real quick, I'm probably going to bungle the phrase, but the name Tree Planters comes from a great little saying that encapsulates humility pretty well. A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in.
yes.
Yeah. That's where we got the name from.
That is a perfect way to put it. It's a perfect way to put it. And anybody that understands that understands what the mission is and understands why the youth are so important. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Youth.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us.